Hi everybody. If you have been following me for any amount of time, you know that this year I have been focusing on taking a super back to basics writer Carol approach to my bullet journal. You'll see more of that in my next video, which is my March bullet journal setup. You may also have noticed that even though I'm not putting in a whole bunch of fancy layouts and shit like that, I am using lettering because I can't help it. I love using lettering. I find that it jazzes things up without too much effort or worry. And so today I wanted to talk a little bit about lettering for your bullet journal, but I'm not going to be teaching you modern calligraphy. You know, the fancy brush pen work that everybody loves to use in their journals these days. Hot take, I'm actually kind of sick of it. Like, I don't mind doing it. I think it's fun. I think it's really pretty. I think it's fun to master. Sick of seeing it everywhere. Everybody and their mother is doing that. So I want to take this back to basics and do 5 simple lettering techniques that you can do with a minimum amount of supplies and absolutely no lettering experience to dress up your bullet journals. You can do all of these with just 2 supplies that you probably already have. One is some sort of a pen. I like using fine liners, and in this video, majority of what I'm using is a Pilot fine liner. And then you want like a highlighter or a marker. If you got Crayola Super Tips, those will work. I've got one of these Stabilo highlighters that I talked about in my 10 things I regret buying because they bleed, but I still need to use them because, god damn it, I need to use them. I paid for them. You can also have a lot of fun if you have a super thick tipped kind of pen or marker. A regular Sharpie works if it's not going to bleed. If you have one of those 160 GSM situations. I actually have a Staedtler pigment liner, which is a 1.0 tip, nice and thick. And then I have a very fine tipped fine liner, is a Pigeon Letters mono liner in 01. Honestly though, whatever pen you've got is fine, and if you've got a highlighter or a marker, you will be able to do everything I show you in this video relatively easily. I'll also add that all 5 of these utilize just your regular handwriting, your regular how you draw letters to begin with. I'm not expecting you to learn any sort of new fancy lettering techniques, more on that in a little bit, but for this, all you have to do is know how to write your letters. And if you're writing things down in a bullet journal, I'm assuming that you know how to do that. The first one we're going to talk about is the scribbly situation. Everything's a situation for me. This is really simple. You just write out what you want to write out and then scribble around it. You're kind of making it a little bit thicker, but you're not filling it in or anything like that. You're just making it look kind of loose. This is really excellent if you like doing like more ephemera in your bullet journal, especially if you like putting in like magazine clippings or stamping. This also can work for drawing in boxes, like if you want to draw on like weekly boxes or daily boxes, doing the same scribbly technique around the edges of those can look really awesome as well. Here's where having the different tip sizes can come in handy. Showing you here both the standard Pilot fine liner I'm using plus the extra thick pen and the extra thin pen, so that you can kind of see how the line weight can really change the look of the scribbly situation. But this is super easy, and honestly, you don't even have to be that good at it. Like, you don't even have, if you have like shaky hands or if you are really nervous, this is a good one for you because there really is no way to fuck it up unless you use so much scribbles you can't read the letters anymore. So just make sure to not go that far, okay? Otherwise you're just going to have scribbly blobs, which could be cute depending on what it is you're going for. Number 2 is keeping it thick. And this is basically similar to the scribbly situation, except you're going to make it solid. Now you can do this with any size pen. I'm actually using this with my thicker pen, mostly for the sake of time. The thicker your marker is, the easier it's going to be to make thick letters. Again, you just draw out your letters, you draw out whatever words you want to have, and then you go back around them. The key here is to make sure that all of the thicknesses are pretty much the same to keep it looking sort of unison. Although, as you can see here, I'm also thickening up one of the sides to just give it kind of an interesting looking look. You can experiment with that if you want to. And if you want to do the same sort of thing, but leave a little bit of space open, a little bit of scribbliness, it's going to look cool too. Think of this technique as bolding your letters, as if you were going to be in like Word or another program like that and you hit the bold to overemphasize something. Keeping it thick is basically the lettering version of that. Now this one I'm calling burst or dots, but this is really just decorating your regular handwriting. It's learning a bunch of different little scribbles and doodles and dots that you can use to go around little certain parts of the words that you write, or going completely around it. Here I'm demonstrating for you some different scribbles, some different squiggles, some different dots, just different things that you can use. And you can see here in my example that I am putting some of them just around parts of the corners of letters, and others I am actually going around the entire letter or the entire word. Just experiment. The trick with this, if you're working in your bullet journal, is once you've decided what kind of little squiggle, burst, dot you want to use, less is more at first. add a little bit and then just keep adding more if you want to, because to take things away, you got to bust out the whiteout, and we don't always want to bust out the whiteout. So just make sure that you're taking it slow. As you build on and build on, you'll start to find the amounts and the proportions that make you really happy. And once you find those, remember that so you can keep using it over and over again. This next one is what I call my sans serif font. It's really simple. You just write your letters out and then thicken one side of them. Now you can color this in, but I think it actually looks really fun if you don't, even if there's that little crossbar that like peeks through on, say, a letter A, where you draw it in on the side. The trick with this one is to draw your thickness on the same side of every letter. I tend to do it to the left of my letters, so you'll see in the example that that's what I'm doing on all of these. Now you can switch back and forth if you want to, but it'll look a lot more consistent and a lot less wonky if you pick one side and stick to it. The exception, at least the way I do it, generally is the letters W and M. They're almost like two letters put together, and so with those I will do the thickness in two spots on each of those. Now once you've done this, you can color it in, you can erase the little bit that peeks through, or you could add stripes. There's all sorts of things you can do with this. Ultimately, all you need to do is write out your own words and then add a little bit of thickness to each of them in basically the same spot for each letter, and it looks really cool. And this is actually a good jumping off point for a lot of other lettering. Now this final technique is really simple, but yet can look the most complicated in your bullet journals, and this is the tracing technique. This is where the marker comes in. Write your word out, whether you write it out in printing or in cursive, and then just trace around it with your fine liner. It winds up looking really suave and really pro, regardless of what the original letters looked like. Now I tend to not be very precise with this. It's just not my style. I like to just be a little bit fast and loose with it, but you can actually be as precise as you want to. If you are trying to be precise, my biggest suggestion to you is to err on the side of being a little outside the lines rather than a little inside the lines. It's really easy to go back in and add a little bit more color. Another thing that you can do with this tracing technique is actually apply everything we've talked about in this video so far. You can use the Scribble II technique around the letters itself to create like a loose outline. Use a thick pen or just do the same thickening technique as the outline to really bold the outline and make it pop. You can add dots to the outside or squiggles or whatever it is that you decide to like. And in twisting the sans serif technique, you can still pick one side of the letter and wind up drawing just a box down the side of it to kind of create a drop shadow effect. There is all sorts of experimentation you can do with this, and again, all you need to do is know how to write a word in printing or in cursive so that you can trace it and then start playing with it. P.S. Doing this is a great way to get practice to start learning how to do bubble lettering later on. Now I've mentioned a couple of times in this video ways of learning some more advanced lettering, and I'm not saying advanced like super fancy calligraphy. I'm just saying advanced as in moving into the land of things like bubble lettering, one of my personal favorite ways to letter. Well, I plan to do more videos on that coming up soon. I've done some more on the channel that are really old, but you can check those out. Or if you're interested, some of you already know, but for those of you who don't know, I actually have a book coming out next week called Cute Hand Lettering for Journals, Planners, and More. Some of the things we've talked about today are in this book, and there's a lot more in here as well as practice sheets and everything else. I am super excited about it. If you are interested in a flip through of this book sometime in the next couple of weeks, please let me know. But the books should be shipping from Amazon starting next week, so you can go find the link in the description below. It's an affiliate link where you can pre-order this and have it show up really soon to learn how to letter. I'm super proud of it, and I am so excited for all of you to get your hands on my little chunker right here. I would love to hear from you in the comments below what kind of lettering you would like to see get popular. I'm telling you right now, bubble lettering will have its day. I don't know when it's going to be, but one day bubble lettering will have its day, and I will say that I have been on the forefront of that. I am waiting for bubble lettering to knock modern calligraphy off of the #1 spot of fancy hand lettering. What kind of hand lettering do you think is going to get popular eventually? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, peace.